Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Bundesliga show. We are back, back with a bang. The Bundesliga's back. No more international football. We've had another weekend of excellent content. Apologies, because I've literally just finished my last mouthful of my dinner. Me and Peter were joking about before going on air, seeing if I'd actually be able to finish it before we actually went live. I just about have, but we're good to go. So welcome back, everyone. Bundesliga footy's back. Yeah, what a weekend of action, Peter. And of course, I'm joined by Peter. No Mark tonight. He's unwell, unfortunately. Peter, it's just you and me, but we've got plenty to wade through.
Yes, quite a few surprises this weekend. It was an awful tip show. So many things went wrong, but that's actually a positive, I would say. It's one prefers to be proven wrong than be proven right when it comes to sports. That's why we love it. And I also send my best wishes to our fallen comrade Mark, who will hopefully be back soon. But he is he has been the great entertainer. Has been doing a lot of entertaining there in Nuremberg, and that can take a lot out of a man.
Sure can. Absolutely. So we wish Mark you well, and we wish you all well. If you're joining us, wherever it is, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all around the world. We love you all who tune in, whether it's via YouTube or indeed via the podcast, to just sit back and chat a bit of Bundesliga footy. So why not? Just before we do get into the hooks and crooks of it all, please do make sure that you like this video if you can do. Comment along if you're watching live or subsequently. Get involved. Let us know how your team has gotten on, as well as subscribing and making sure that you turn on those notifications for all the different shows that are coming your way, as well, just to warn you. Fantasy Football Show is back this week, and it's back earlier as well, so you've got even more time to get stuck into it. We're going to be back on Wednesday evening, so keep an eye out for that on your socials as well. Plenty going on. Big shout out to our partners as well, Bundesliga Boxes. I want to shout them out because Batch, let me get this right, I don't want to naff it up for Rich and the guys, so I'm just going to let you all know that Batch 44 is now available for you to go out and purchase. So yeah, head over to Bundesliga Boxes or find them online and get yourself a fantastic box from Batch 44. I've just been paid, so I think I know where my money's going. So yeah, and obviously a great shout out to our other partners, Bully News, as well. Right then, let's get stuck into it, and we'll work our way through our featured four. Then we'll do a bit of best of the rest, and maybe if we have time, we might even finish off with a bit of Champions League predictions ahead of match week 3 of the Bundesliga, the Champions League. Right then, so let's settle into things. First of our 4 games that we're featuring this evening is Hoffenheim's big home win, 3-1 over beleaguered Bochum. 3-1 in the end. Quite a wild end to this match, and some wild headlines, but big news coming out of the club, as in the losing club. Unfortunately, VfL Bochum. They have parted company with head coach Peter Zeidler and sporting director Mark Letau. That news broke yesterday afternoon. Doesn't come as a huge surprise, unfortunately, Peter, our first head coach and sporting director casualty of the season.
I was rather surprised by it. And of course, I have strong opinions on it. We can get to that when you'd like to get to that. Depends on how you'd like to discuss this message.
Let's get stuck into it. If you've got an opinion on it, do tell.
Well, we have been tracking Bochum, of course, on this pod. We've been talking a great deal about Bochum. It was late last season that they parted company with Thomas Lech, and also the other sporting director at the time, the other manager in the German parlance, Patrick Fabian. So in the past 5 months, we have seen Bochum sack 2 sporting directors along with 2 power-balled coaches. And I think this is bringing this club into what we might call Schalke Hertha territory, and that it's impossible for a footballing philosophy to take hold. They have no coherence to what they're trying to do. I think that Letau sacking was totally unnecessary. The rumors that I'm reading now is that Letau actually backed Zeidler, and that was one of the reasons why they let him go. We've talked a little bit before on the pod what a intriguing offseason VfL Bochum had. They lost so many players. It was actually insane what Letau was able to do with a budget. He got Ibrahima Sissoko, Danny De Witt, Samuel Bamba, Patrick Druas, all of these guys on freeze. We don't know exactly how much he paid for Koji Miyoshi, the Japanese international from Birmingham. But he also got Medic and Boadu on loans. So despite the fact that this team lost so many key components, among them Kevin Sturger and also Takuma Asano and Christopher Antoine J and Haga, all of this stuff. He really did put together, I think, something quite intriguing. Now, whether or not Zeidler was using that in the proper fashion, that is something that we have debated on this show before, particularly as pertains to De Witt and Sissoko, who appear to be playing further back than where they were intended for. And both players have been something of a disappointment thus far. But I'm almost fuming, and many people in German footballing circles are fuming about this, because the team that was built around Lech, this featured many of his former players like Vitek and Barrow and things like that. So they were trying to build a team around his former Vitesse players. And now they went ahead and had an ambitious summer transfer window, got some high-value players. Most of the players that I listed are valued at around 5 million euros or higher. Got them on freeze or on loans. And now they have no sporting director. Yes, we have two interim coaches that are going to be serving through the next international break at the very least. There are no rumors that a new coach will be appointed anytime soon. Yeah. And I know I mentioned this on Thursday's pod. It bears repeating. It's something worth emphasizing. Bochum did not get their first win under Thomas Lech until Matchday 10 last season. So to sack a trainer and your sporting director after 7 match days, and I'll kick it over to you to talk a little bit about the match. Had Lucas Daschner converted that penalty, we would be discussing a 2-2 draw. So I don't like this move at all, and I don't know where this club comes from here. What are your opinions on the matter, Rory?
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. I guess because, living in England and seeing the Premiership model of instant or wanting instant success, and therefore the manager is ultimately culpable and is the first person on the chopping board and is often the first person gone X amount of games in. That didn't surprise me. Of course, learning the Bundesliga and German football, as I have done over the last 5-6 years, it's refreshing that it's not often the trigger being pulled too quickly. But, I wonder, especially with the next 4 games that they have, because it'll probably take them longer this season to win a match, because the next 4 games are Bayern, Frankfurt, Leverkusen, Stuttgart, maybe not necessarily in that order. What great amount of difference it is to do it now, only for maybe a small bounce, under different management or coaching, try and set up and be harder to beat. But it still strikes me as a harsh move in a sense. And the sporting director is a harsh one as well. And I think me and Mark were ultimately a lot more pessimistic about Bochum's chances than you were, because you had been really intrigued by what they've put together in the off season. We talked quite rightly about how decimated they were by players leaving on free contracts or whatever it was. Removing the sporting director, obviously without knowing the inside of it all, is that his moves have have not satisfied. And like you say, maybe that's the fault of Zeidler because he didn't put it right on the pitch tactically. Well, can you say any of the players are settled in well because they're bottom and because they haven't won a match so far? It's a tricky one, but yeah, big news nonetheless. They've got a hell of a job to do in, like I say, the next 4 games, just to get that first win under the belt. But yeah, tricky times. In terms of the match, of course, we haven't even talked about it yet. It was well, they didn't get off to the best of starts. 10 minutes in, I mean, when your luck's out, because I think the first goal is hugely unfortunate from a Bochum point of view because I'm not sure who it is. It might be De Witt actually, who kind of intercepts a pass and it strikes off his shin and ends up being the most amazing through ball for Kramaric, who strides onto it and puts his laces through it and finishes very well for 1-1. The first half was very much Hoffenheim. Bochum came into it towards the end of the half. Mayoshi, obviously a player that you've already named, Peter, was starting to look quite lively, but Kramaric probably already should have had a hat-trick by half-time. He hit the bar as well. Excuse me. So half-time, Hoffenheim would have been disappointed with only being 1-up, and Bochum were probably quite glad. So then, going into the second half is when things really bubbled up. We had a disallowed goal for Marius Bulter, I think for an offside in the build-up. He got his goal in the end anyhow, running onto a sumptuous pass from young Bischoff. Excellent through ball. Bulter just runs onto it perfectly and can smash it in first time for 2-0. And then, there's a couple more chances at this point to make it 3-0. Bochum then obviously get a lifeline. Gamboa is played in and strikes a really nice effort. Quite a good tight angle to make it 2-1. And then the drama really kicks off because, we get a penalty late on for the visitors after Apoguma. After Hoffenheim, again, stupidly playing around with the ball at the back, slow reactions from the defender, and he brings down Sissoko, who manages to nip in ahead of him. Again, just daft from Hoffenheim to be doing something like that so late on in the match. And as you've already said, Peter, the penalty is saved by Baumann. I mean, he's such a penalty saving specialist, isn't he? I mean, he just has a knack. I know the VfB Americana lads are always talking about how if they ever needed to put money on a goalkeeper to save a penalty, they'd go for him. He's got a great record, and so he made another save there. And then substitutes Tabakovic, who we've really not seen much of at all since his move over from Hertha. A bit of a journeyman, Tabakovic, but managed to get his first goal on the counter-attack after being played in by Brun Larsen for 3-1. Interesting game. I thought, Hoffenheim, again, going forward, no problem. Actually playing Marius Bulter up front, shock horror, is actually working, instead of left back or left wing back or anywhere else. Him having a partnership with Flozek is quite nice, and Kramaric being able to pick up the bits in between, dash into the spaces, really works nicely. A good game for Tom Bischoff as well. 19-year-old, was involved with the Germany under-21s during the international break. And I think, obviously, as a 19-year-old, you're working your way into Bundesliga life and adult football and everything else. It's taken him time, but I thought he played really well. And that assist was gorgeous as well. Huge win for Pellegrino Matarazzo's men. They got the job done. So in a match sense, Peter, Hoffenheim, I think, deserved of their win. You're on mute, Peter.
Certainly. As you mentioned, Kramaric could have had a hat-trick before the end of halftime. And that initial disallowed Bülter goal, I don't think that was necessarily fair because the Kramaric did not intentionally play that ball. to the offside position player. Yeah, I mean, this was a bad Bochum performance, and one can understand to a certain extent why Zeidler had to go, because I mean he went with this 4-3-3 for the first time, and it was a total dud. My boy Panovig, who was talking up on Thursday, was a total dud. The David was missing in action. Miyoshi was the only good part of the front three there. And he of course went with the triple substitution at halftime. Doschner played a good game apart from that missed penalty. But yeah, I mean, there's certainly some signs of improvement for Hoffenheim. Bischoff he's not with the Germany U21s yet. He's with the Germany U20s. But he's been he made his debut under Sebastian Hoeneß at the end of the 2021-22 campaign. So spring of 2022, he's got 4 Bundesliga seasons now, or parts of 4 seasons under his belt. He definitely a player whom we thought would feature as a 10. But now he seems to have found his legs as a 6, which is something that Hoffenheim desperately needed. On the topic of other things that Hoffenheim desperately need, they have Marius Bülter in position now. Gendry and Prosser are settling in at wing back. That back three still is not very good. Stach is still playing out of position. Akpoguma had a very poor match, and Arthur Chavez is struggling to make the transition from the Portuguese second division to the German top division. Yeah, it's it's a little bit of a shame for the football romantics, this one, because Hoffenheim seemed to be stabilizing after we hoped a little bit that some of this chaos that was going on in their front office would get the fans off of them and sort of get this club under pressure to investigate whether or not Dietmar Hopp is still pulling the strings behind the scenes. And meanwhile, we have a fantastic tradition club like Bochum, the club of Christoph Biermann and Herbert Grönemeyer, which seems destined now. I mean, I would absolutely. I don't see how they get the wins. You mentioned the upcoming schedule. Thomas Letsch's Bochum beat Bayern, beat Leverkusen, and beat Stuttgart. Thomas Reis's Bochum also beat Bayern. So, I mean, it was weird. It was weird. I wrote a story on Sunday morning. Zeidler and Hoffmann had some post-match comments in which they said, this team is alive. We still got some momentum. We can still, do something in the big matches. And then they go and they pull the ripcord like this. Not German, Rory. Not German.
Well,
yeah. Not German.
Okay. Well, no, interesting situation at both clubs, but time tells us that we must move on as we're almost 20 minutes in and we've only done one game. But no, we needed to talk about the head coach movement and, of course, give good attention to that. Alas, yes, let us move on to the next game that we're going to cover. And this was also Saturday afternoon kickoff, and there was a much needed win. If we're talking about pressure on head coaches for Gerardo Seoane, as his Gladbach side saw out a 3-2 home win against Heidenheim. Of course, Kleindienst getting on the score sheet twice in this one. And yeah, they saw off a late comeback in the end. But yeah, no, very important for Gladbach and Seoane. He made Peter 5 changes to his starting 11 that lost to FC Augsburg, including dropping Kevin Sturger. So, I mean, straight away you're thinking, if this doesn't work, as in the end result, then it's going to be big trouble. Because on social media, there was a lot of people saying, dropping Sturger in the first place is a sackable offence and, get him out already, which, I kind of humoured and was thinking this could be a tricky one. But ultimately, yeah, the results and the way that the game went, I thought playing in that role worked. He got a few assists. Well, the first goal's an assist, but it's not really. But he did a good job in there, I thought, and the payout is an important win and 3 points. So do we have to give Gerardo a bit of credit this time around for just shaking things up and seeing what sticks?
Sure. I mean, the coaching discussion is not over in Gladbach, not by any stretch of the imagination. I was not following this game on social media, but I noticed that Seoane was whistled and booed by the home Gladbach fans prior to kickoff. And they did not like this lineup either. Benching Kevin Sturge, going with, of course, he didn't have a choice when it came to the matter of Luca Netz. Luca Netz was hurt. And actually, this was probably the best defensive performance I've seen from Gladbach all season when he moved Scally over to the left back position and had Leiner take right. Itakura, talk about a player who was on both sides of the bad luck. You were bringing up like these unintentional assists in the first match. That happened quite a bit in this one too. Yeah. I would say that the front three or the access of Playa, Honorat, and Hack worked extremely well. Yep. Kleindienst was a little bit of a non-factor until he was. And then, of course, the second goal was scored from the penalty spot. Pretty poor performance from Heidenheim all across the board. Marnen Busch, the right back, was culpable on a couple of those goals directly. Yeah. I mean, it was a high-scoring affair. Of course, you had two penalties. But we'll see with Seoane. I mean, this is another one where Gladbach is another club in which you can attack them for not allowing. Well, you can't really attack them for not allowing coaching philosophies to settle. They gave Adi Hütte a full year. They gave Daniel Fark a full year. They gave Seoane more than a year. So I think. We'll see. When do they play Frankfurt? Is that next week or in 2 weeks' time?
I'll have to check.
I think that's probably, in my estimation, that's the end match. Those are my thoughts on this match. In any case, if you have some more to offer,
I do. I also have a stat attack for you. So before this game, Gladbach under Seoane had only won once after going a goal down. So they actually managed to turn the game around very rarely in under his tenure so far. I mean, yeah, their XG as well, if we're talking about stats and bits and bobs like that, which we don't have to because XG is not necessarily how a game is played out. But Gladbach's with 3.81. Yeah, well, so basically 3. So I guess you're good for your money with the penalty. The big question, of course, is whether they can actually go back to back for once. That would be nice. But yeah, as the game happened, they went into overdrive late on as well, much like the game that we just talked about, because we only had 1 goal. 2 goals in the first half. Obviously, we had the first effort from Scienza, who followed up. Not the best bit of goalkeeping from Nicolas in this case. Pushing the ball out, not far enough, and getting nutmegged in the process from the rebound. Itakura's goal was a bit of keeping the ball alive and being opportunistic in the box. As you mentioned, Peter, the front 3 of Gladbach played pretty well, and Kleindienst wasn't really a factor until he was, and finished his first goal pretty cleverly, though. Some, haters might hate and say, oh, it's just hit him and it goes in. But to me, he angles his foot and he kind of flicks it in for me. Would you agree, or do you think he just hit him?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what they call in German a Hacke, which is sort of a catch-all term for an excellent back heel goal. And that was an excellent example of a Hacke.
Nice. A Hacke is something to me that New Zealand do when they're about to play rugby.
I thought you might bring that up, yeah.
Well, as a rugby man, I can't not. And yeah, the penalty which Plea won, and yeah, Kleindienst does is the rest. And then obviously another penalty where Weigl handled in the area, not the smartest bit of play there, to give Pieringer a chance to return the favour, which he did. And then there were chances. I mean, there was a good save from Niklas towards the end, a Kaufmann's header, and Sir Lord Conte also had a good chance, which he couldn't muster up. But then, I mean, blimey, Gladbach did not see out the game very well. They should have scored 3 goals in 3 minutes at the end. Kavankara and Kleindienst, somehow between the two of them, probably should have had 2 goals each or something, stuff like that. They had so many chances, hit the post as well. So probably should have been 4-2, being realistic, and should have been more comfortable. Overall, like you say, 3-2 is a bit generous to Heidenheim. I think I agree with you, Peter. Not their best performance, and have now lost 3 out of their last 4 Bundesliga games. So improvement for Heidenheim definitely needs to come. Right then, well, we've dodged it as long as we could, but it's time to talk about Saturday's top spiel. Yeah, FC Bayern 4, VfB Stuttgart 0. Harry Kane hat-trick. Yeah, before we get into the game, I just wanted to comment on something that I picked up again on social media, which the great Derek Ray had put on there. So I'm stealing this from you, Derek. So I do apologize. Kane's hat trick was his first pure one, also known as a Lupenreiner. Probably not got the pronunciation right, but what it translates as is 3 goals in a row without reply in the same half. Is that right, Peter? Are we on the nail there?
Yes, I posted that on social media as well. I don't have the following that Derek Ray has, but I'm all about the Lupenreiner hat trick. As a matter of fact, there was a pod that we were doing around about this time last year. I think it was round 5 when Harry Kane scored his first hat trick. But it was not a Lupenreiner hat trick, which translates to 3 goals in the same half, not interrupted by any other goals from an opposition player. And that was pointed out by one of our viewers. And I had totally forgotten about the concept of the Lupenreiner because we haven't used it since like the 70s. But yes, I was very, very excited. I was screaming in the Bully News chat box, Lupenreiner, 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 but nobody got what I was talking about. So congratulations. I imagine you have some mixed emotions here watching your boy Harry play one of his best Bundesliga games and watching your Swabian brethren really. Yeah, we can do the stats bomb on that later, but I'll turn it over to you for your thoughts first.
Yeah, stats bomb. It really is, isn't it? Yeah. So watching the game on Saturday night, of course, with the having just watched it, I doing some post-match reflection on socials, like you do, and I kind of said, yeah, fair play, Bayern. They were great, but I felt that a couple of things fell their way in terms of deflections for goals. And obviously the big chance for Wagnerman, not taking your chances, bad day at the office, move on. And I also said I didn't feel like it was didn't feel like Bayern were worthy of the 4-goal margin of victory. And Justin's checking in, so thank you for saying hello, Justin. Hope you're doing well. And he's asked, yeah, what happened? And I've subsequently watched it back, extended highlights, and maybe they were. That second half was brutal. In fairness, they could have scored a lot more than 4. I think in the first half, I don't think Stuttgart played badly. I think they pressed well in places to try and get some joy. Ultimately, the main thing that was causing Stuttgart issues in the first half, particularly, was the ball over the top for Alphonso Davies to run onto in that space. Unfortunately, the returning Joshua Wagnerman had a bit of a stinker. didn't play his best game, obviously, and he was the one who had the chance at 0-0. Obviously, they changed things up a little bit. So no Musiala for Bayern. We have to say this as well. Stuttgart rotated a little bit. So no Mio or Maxi Mittelstädt from the start, handing a first start to Hendricks, I think it was. And I thought he dealt with Elise okay. I don't think he did a terrible job in the first half, that is. And then, second half was a procession after 1-0, which is a disappointing way to concede from distance. Yeah, it's a good hit from Kane. But I thought Newball might have been able to tip it around the post. But yeah, overall, their chance creation and XG obviously just dwarfed whatever Stuttgart did. And yes, I think Stuttgart have some real issues in terms of the back line, new faces. One thing that was really frustrating me, and I don't know again if it's reactionary and you can have your word on this as well, Peter. Chabot for me in that game, and it was highlighted because it was Bayern. He was either miles outside of the defensive line chasing someone like Kane, or he was on his arse in terms of trying to make a slide tackle or something like that. And for me, as a defender, having played the game and having watched it, that's not where you want to be. You want to be stood up, and you want to be in a strong position to be to making those tackles. But it just goes to show how stretched the team was all the time. So yeah, a few snippets from me. I'll ping it back over to you if you want to have a say on a few of those bits and maybe drop a few stats for us as well.
Well, the back four had had a great amount of difficulty keeping their shape, and I think that was due in large part due to the Champions League rotations that you talked about there, particularly Henriks getting his start. Also, Stiller and Karazor both looked very confused about when they were supposed to drop back and help Chabot and Ruout out. I think I don't want to be too hard on Stiller, Karazor, Undav, or Leveling because they all perform so well on international duty. So this is something to keep in mind as well, and that's one of the reasons why they just, it had been an exhausting international break from all of them, not just the tour of duty with the German national team and Karo's a case for Turkey, but also all of the press and all of the interviews and all of these other things. I mean, it seemed like it really took a toll on them. You mentioned Wagnermann's miss. You talked about Nübel maybe being able to parry that first Harry Kane effort. Yeah, that much is true. The stats bomb actually was a little bit. It came from there's a scathing article on Stuttgart in the Kicker, Zurück in der Gegenwart, which is a play on. All right, let me explain. Zurück in die Zukunft is the German version of the American film Back to the Future, which Germans love for some reason. They love Back to the Future. So Zurück in der Gegenwart means snap back into the present. So they're talking about Stuttgart being back down on their level now, and they were talking about 2.14 goals per game as opposed to 1.5. They're comparing last season to this season. Yeah. The number of kilometers run, they did a whole little piece on that, which I think was a little bit over the top, if you ask me. I mean, it's Bayern, it's a tough opponent. And actually, the Pavlovic injury probably, that gave Palhinha a chance to work as a holding six, and that was another thing that confused Stiller and Karazor because he's such a. Both him and Kimmich were timing the rotations and moving in and out quite nicely. So, it was an extremely tough opponent. And no, they didn't create a lot of chances. No, they sort of fell apart and I didn't care for that whining about the offside call either, because if 45 seconds had elapsed, for crying out loud, it wasn't relevant to the play anymore. Yeah. But anyways, I think they're a little harsh on Stuttgart, particularly considering the German national team is Stuttgart now. So this is a whole different kind of pressure.
Yeah. I don't think it's time to go in on anyone. It would have been nice for maybe the team to realise, okay, it's time to take your medicine maybe at 2-0 and maybe try and look a little bit more resolute defensively and have a bit more of a block. But that, I guess that's just not in the team's nature. And hopefully they'll learn that on the journey that they're on, this particular team. Before we move on, picking up on Justin's question, is Stuttgart still going to be a top 4 side, aka Champions League? Well, I predicted 5th at the start of the season, and so aka outside of the traditional top 4 of Champions League. I think you have to say that is still the case, pending Frankfurt's rise continuing and being stable. Then it's looking like 6th place as best practice if they can raise levels. Taking on Kiel at home next up is hopefully a nice medicine for the team to feel good about and try and win again. Obviously, they now face a massively tricky opponent in Juventus away from home. So that'll be a really interesting match to see how they go tomorrow. Of course, really looking forward to it, and we'll maybe do a quick prediction later on. But yeah, work for them to do. Bayern looking super impressive. I have to say it was a dominant performance overall, especially that second half. Right then, let's move on to our final game of our featured 4. And yeah, we're going with Sunday action. We're going with Wolfsburg. Wolfsburg's home defeat to Werder 4-2 in the end. Really impressive. Another really impressive away win for Werder. Wolfsburg just not getting it right at home at all. Really topsy-turvy game this on Sunday. And at one point you're probably thinking it might not be hugely entertaining, but again, second half really got some good action. Couple of goalkeeping misdemeanors in this game as well. So for the first goal, it's Zeidler completely naffing up a clearance from a corner for Thiago Thomas to benefit from, to make it 1-0 to the home side. So you're thinking, okay, they're off to a good start here, but weren't able to capitalise on it. And Werder get back into it right on the stroke of half-time, I think in the 5th added minute, where Dusk plays provider in this sense and sets up his good friend Mitchell Weiser, who slams in nicely on the volley. That's for 1-1. Good time, of course, to get an equaliser. Into the second half we went, and some good play between Dusk and Grul on the edge of the box led to a chance for Grul, which is saved by Grabara, but the rebound then falls to Agu. Gets a good strike on it, good enough, but Grabara gets to it and it falls underneath him. So again, for me, that's not great from the goalkeeper point of view. From there on, of course, we then get the third goal. This time we flip around. The first goal, it's Weiser then becoming the assist provider for Dusk, who had a really important performance and game. And we talked about his lack of goals on Thursday's prediction show. Finished like a super confident striker. Really nicely done for 3-1. Gets even worse for the Wolves in the end as substitute Wimmer gets himself sent off straight red for a very clumsy and nasty tackle pretty much in halfway. So that did not help things. Quickly goes to 4-1. Again, Dusk involved, setting up Gruel after a deflection, makes it 4-1. And then the score is not done. Mailer gets one substitute as well. Pretty much allowed to just run through Werder and put one into the bottom corner for 4-2. So, Peter, this was a hard game to maybe digest or break down, but really good away win again for Werder. They've been good on the road, but the Wolves still. We were just starting to give them credit, weren't we? We were just starting to, G them up a bit, and then their disciplinary record. If I ever see a red card in the Bundesliga, I'm like, yeah, okay, so Wolfsburg have had another man sent off. It's usually Lacroix, but he's not here anymore. So, what were your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I've given this a lot of thought because the prediction show, I tipped a 3-0 win, and you were so convinced by my argument that you backed that, you doubled down on that as well.
Yep.
Wolfsburg certainly had the superior side on paper, and then when I found out that Jens Stage would be ruled out of the match after an injury in training, I was even more convinced that this would be the coming out party for Germany's Green Company team, so to speak, at home. But it simply did not happen for them, and it happened in. It just doesn't seem to matter who's coaching this team. Wolfsburg, whether it was Van Bommel, Kofeld, Kovac, they have a good set of tactics. You can see they put their work in on the training pitch, and they come out with like an opening, an assertive opening 10 minutes. And then they fall back. And as a matter of fact, the first goal was, it came off of a dead ball. The the Werder attack that I was lambasting so much, I mean, much of it had to do with the fact that Marco Gröll decided to show up. And he had a little bit of luck in this one, but he worked his socks off. And I really think that's he and moving Visor back to the wingback role, but still having some of that attacking DNA in him, allowed him to have some absolutely wonderful interplays with Dux in the manner in which they set each other up. Amora had some good chances in this one. Things could have swung the other way. Maxi Arnold, his actually talking about a poor disciplinary record in this one, he got his 5th yellow card, and then shortly after that had to be subbed off injured. I think Yannick Gerhardt said it right, that there was no real team cohesion after he was subbed on in the 42nd minute. Everybody was sort of doing their own thing. And this applied particularly to this sort of back three, which you could call a back five, depending on whether Kaminsky and Baku are on or off the ball there. But Vavro and Kouliarakis were very, very often not in sync with one another. Yeah, I mean, what can one say about Wolfsburg? A very, very difficult team to predict, because Amora did have his chances, and could have swung the other way. Male, who is now fit enough to at least earn some minutes off of the bench, it was a fantastic goal, short-handed. So, yeah, I mean, this is Germany's for now. They are our perennial underachievers and bottlers. Until Hasenhüttl can give them a new identity. One feels for their fans, and as I was mentioning on the Thursday show, a lot of layoffs in the German Autostadt as well. So it's just bad time to be a Volkswagen employee or enthusiast. How about this Werder team on the road? Do they have to play at home again?
Amazing. Scored 4 goals on the twice in a row now in consecutive away games. Yeah, fascinating. They're absolutely loving life on the road, as are their fans. Great win for Werder in the Green Derby there. So yeah, let's move on to our other 5 games, our best of the rest segment. We might as well kick off with another, a really big game that happened on Saturday afternoon between Leverkusen and Frankfurt, Peter. So Leverkusen getting a really big win overall. one that you might kind of look back at the end of the season, perhaps. 2-1 to Leverkusen. So this, obviously, the scoring went that Leverkusen had to come back. Boniface, in fact, missed an early penalty himself before Marmoush did, scored one himself. Marmoush had also struck the woodwork before that to make it 1-0. Leverkusen come back into it with a fine, lovely team goal that is finished off eventually by Andrecht. That was delightful to watch. And then they bring around the comeback fully in the second half when Boniface makes amends by getting on the end of a cross that, unfortunately, was a bit of a mess up between Trapp and I can't remember who the defender was, but they kind of get each other's way and it loops up and Boniface makes the most of it. However, we weren't done because we have this moment that we need to talk about, Peter, and you can have your own thoughts about the game. But a mix-up at the end of the match between Tar and Radetzky leads to a huge chance for Hugo Ekitike to seemingly head in from a yard to make it 2-2 and draw the game. He's pushed or muscled or leaned out of the way by Tar and nothing is given. So there's huge debates on social media again in regards to this and the result of it. What were your thoughts? Were Frankfurt indeed robbed by the physical contact from Tar on Ekitike?
I appreciate the non-call in this case. I think that it's football remains a contact sport, and when you have an aerial duel, I think it's acceptable. It didn't really seem to me like a malicious push. It seemed like he was going up to contest the aerial duel. And I think that Ekitike went to ground a little easily as soon as he felt that little bit of contact in the back. So, personally, if you look at it, I'm glad that we have some subjective things to talk about in football again these days, but perhaps have a different opinion. But my opinion is that the contact was pretty light. I don't think that it merited a penalty.
Interesting. So that's what the show's all about. People don't have to agree, and people can have their own opinions because I don't agree. I feel. I think you're right in saying it's not a lot of contact, which I completely agree with. I know nothing about goal scoring. I'm a defender, so I'm usually in defenders union, but I'm not tonight. I think just the smallest amount of contact in that situation, because Ekitike is already in the air for me, and that's when Tar initiates contact. So he does enough very cleverly and very smartly to put Ekitike off being able to score the goal. So for me, it's a denial of a goal and therefore should have been punished. But, everyone can have their own opinion on it. That's exactly what you said, subjective. Football, fascinated that it wasn't given. Huge let off for Leverkusen because it was their own doing, but a massive result nonetheless to keep them, just 3 points off the top of the table, and overall, big win for the side, Xabi Alonso's men. Also go to Friday night football, Peter, for this one. Dortmund saved by Seru. It might be something that we say a lot this season. They had led earlier on in the match thanks to Ben Sabaini. A good header for him. After St. Pauli thought they'd gone ahead, they had a goal disallowed. I think that was Gilavugi. No, or was it Gilavugi? Yeah, it was for offside. So that was a tight one. They thought they might take a point away from Signal Iduna Park after Eric Smith or Eric Smith. I'm not sure where we're going with on the pronunciation of that one.
I have a question about that too, because he's Swedish, but so it's like Eric Smith or something like this.
We'll just call him Smith. If he wants to get in touch with us, and you can let us know, Eric. But you scored a banger, absolute worldie of a goal on the half volley, connects with it perfectly. And you're thinking then, wow, Dortmund have thrown it away in a sense by not completing the job. But then some lovely play, one-on-one play by Gittins to get to the byline, to loop in, just perfectly loop it for Seru to attack and get the goal, the important goal to make it 2-1 and keep Dortmund in the conversation as well. Well, it put them inside the top four, after the evening before all the Saturday and Sunday matches happened. So very much an important victory for the home side. And yeah, you feel sorry for Pauli because they gave it their all, but yeah, they were just missing something going forward. But they did look quite dangerous from set pieces, I thought. Moving on to our last 3 games and some big wins for the 3 sides involved. I got those wins. Leipzig go marching on. I'm sure Justin will be very happy with this. 2-0 goals in the first half for Xavi Simons, returning to his best, certainly for this goal. Excellent body position to turn and dribble at great pace and then being able to poke it through Zeidler's legs for 1-0, and Orban doing what he does best, always in the mixer when it comes to crosses and set plays, and he got on the end of one there as well. Somehow Benjamin Šeško did not score despite being in my fantasy team and I wanting him desperately to do so. He saw to spurn a few chances late on. Mines were not bad, Peter, but just not that final product, and Leipzig getting another important win.
Yeah, I mean, those 2 missed chances from Šeško just coming a couple minutes after one another before he got sent. Actually, it was Leipzig-Mainz was a hard watch. It was a hard watch on both sides. I didn't really like the football from either sides. That was probably the only game of the weekend that I was relatively disappointed with. But the other 2 wins did supply us with some quality football. Very, very happy for Olten that he did get 2 goals there at Holstein Stadion on Sunday afternoon. With Union Berlin, although one feels a little bit for Kiel that Tom Rota scored, and one feels a little bit for St. Pauli too that Joshua Kemlin scored. The 2 promoted sides, players that they had loaned out that are now with Union Berlin or helping out the Eisen. And with the Freiburg result, that was something else. Augsburg cannot defend for beans. But it was for Freiburg enthusiasts, of which I count myself. It was like Legends Night in the final 10 minutes of the first half there with Vincenzo Grifo, Philipp Lienhardt, and the captain himself, Christian Günther, getting goals in the last 10 minutes. Anything to add about those other 2 matches?
No, not so much. But as you say, for Freiburg enthusiasts, they are enjoying, I think, a team equal best ever start under Julian Schuster, which is fantastic for them. Like you say, Augsburg just forgetting to defend, unfortunately, just before the end of the first half. Tietz took his goal very well, and they had a good chance, certainly. Giannulis, I think it was, played through or worked his way through on goal. Either could have squared it or goes to a goal. He does the latter and doesn't quite get it, so can't inspire a full FCA comeback. And there you have it, another important. Another great win for Freiburg, keeps them in the mixer. Ultimately, it's a nicely congested, if I can get my words out, top of the table so far, Peter. I mean, we're not talking about title races so much, obviously, at the start of the season because you've just got to be in it to win it. But we have Bayern and Leipzig join on 17 points. The hugely impressive Freiburg are on 15, so just 2 points behind. Then you've got a cluster of Leverkusen, Leverkusen and Union Berlin, can't forget them, of course. Frankfurt and Dortmund then on 13. So it's quite nicely congested for now, isn't it?
Yeah, certainly. We have some intriguing stuff going on in German football. And I suppose it's on the topic of intriguing stuff. Shall we get to those Champions League predictions?
Let's do it. I've scribbled them down. I've got mine all ready to go. So yeah, we'll just run through these. So Juve, Stuttgart. Yeah, away in Italy, tricky one. Well, Leipzig gave them a really good game. Leipzig should have beaten them, really, shouldn't they, in the last round? But I'm still going to go 2-1 Juve.
I agree.
2-1 Juve it is. Well, fingers crossed it's not. Real Madrid, Dortmund, a repeat of last year's finale. I'm going to say 2-2. 2-2 for me. Yeah, I figure Madrid haven't impressed me, particularly in the Champions League. Who did they lose the last game?
I think so. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going 2-2.
All right, I'm going to go 1-0 for Dortmund. I think we can do it now. The Friday night performance really did impress me on many levels.
Okay.
Although I wish I could I wish I could talk about Back to the Future. I wish I could invent a time machine and take Emre Can back a few years. I do. But I mean, apart from him, I love Emre Can, and to watch him sort of at this stage of his career is very difficult for me. But apart from him, I thought Dortmund played very well in all areas.
Interesting. Fair enough. We've got BVB David saying 2-1 Madrid. Justin, I think he's done RBL, so we'll come to that next. Well, so we've got. Oh, sorry, I'm doing this chronologically. Brest versus Leverkusen. I am saying 3-1 to the away side, despite Brest very much impressing so far this season in Europe. What do you reckon?
Good tip. Very good tip. I like it. 3-1 it is.
3-1 it is. Lovely stuff. Barcelona versus FC Bayern Munich. Well, you can take this one first. You can take the next two first.
I am still. I mean, I'm very much a Bayern believer. I think Musiala is going to be back for this one too. So I think Hansi Flick gets embarrassed by his former club 2-1 Bayern, and then that leaves us with with Leipzig, Liverpool, and I'll say. Well, Justin's got 3-2. That would be good. That would be good. I like that one. I like that one. I think, yeah, hopefully Marco Rose and the boys, they saved their attractive football for the Champions League, because I didn't like what I saw on Saturday at all.
I think Justin's gone 3-2 for Liverpool, though. Not the other way around. But I'll say 1-1 Leipzig Liverpool, and I will say 2-2 Barca, which David has also said 2-2 Barca. Justin saying 3-3 Barca. So yeah, interesting stuff. Looking forward to that. Of course, we've got Europa footy as well for Frankfurt and Hoffenheim. Hoffenheim travelled to Porto, I think. Not an easy one for Pellegrino Matarazzo's men. Frankfurt, crikey, are at home to someone. And Heidenheim travelled to Greece and take on Paphos, I think it is, Paphos FC. So I'd back them, certainly. Frankfurt I'd back as well. Hoffenheim, I think, will struggle ultimately in Porto for sure. That very neatly tidies us up for this evening. It's been great fun to go through the recent match week of the Bundesliga. Some great games in there. Great to chat with you, Peter, and everyone who's got involved. Thank you, David. Justin, everyone that's got involved this evening. Has been great. A great show indeed. So just before we finish, all the usual bits and bobs of admin. Please do make sure that you leave a like on the video, comment if you haven't watched us live, and subscribe and turn on those notifications. Do remember, obviously, we are also an audio platform, so in the sense that we are on podcasts. So we're on, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anything. Go search us if you prefer to just listen to us when you're in the car, or, on your way to work, whatever way you want to absorb your Bundesliga footy, we are there for you. And do make sure that you check us out on X at Over the Bar FB and Village Footy 20. Peter's also on X, and you're getting more involved on X, aren't you, Peter, like you say? So make sure you go follow him. And we're also on Insta at Over the Bar FB. So all there is left to say is thank you everyone for watching, and we will catch you on Wednesday. Fantasy football, bit early, then predictions. It's all a go again on Over the Bar's Bundesliga show. Thanks all. Catch you next time.